Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it is only sport. Marty, Devlin, Lachlan Waugh. We present a program every afternoon on The Platform. This is the highlights, the best bits podcast of that. Will SVG's boss, the Supercars legend Jamie Whincup, stand in the way if Shane wants to leave and pursue his NASCAR dream? Was Dylan Brown's punishment from the NRL, a 7-week backdated suspension, enough for his sexual touching conviction? Darren Bazeley, now confirmed as the new All Whites coach. Is he indeed the best available bloke? Are the Poms crybabies or the Aussies the villains of world cricket? The Ashes fallout still steaming in wicket to wicket. Jamie Whincup on this podcast, Mark Watson on the podcast, Hamish Kerr going great guns and winning a Diamond League meet in the high jump. All to come. But as always, we begin the program, tablets in hand. I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Hey, Bazball, let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Crybabies, crybabies. England cricket crybabies. That was the big headline overnight on the back page of the West Australian newspaper in the wake of the Poms' continued bleating about Bairstow's dismissal yesterday and Aussie cheating. They don't like it up in Mr. Mannering. Forget the fact that Bairstow had tried to do something similar in the first test. Let's not mention that. Forget the fact that they bazballed themselves out of both the Lords and Headingley tests. Lost because of seriously poor judgment, rash shot selection, rush of teenage testosterone to the head at only the most inopportune times, those English batsmen. They battered themselves to defeat with knobhead Instagram cricket. Finding the right balance between entertainment and stupidity has been a failure. So said former skipper Michael Vaughan, and he's right. What worked versus us, Pakistan, South Africa, has come a gutser against a ruthless Aussie side that make you pay for every dumb mistake you make. And they've made plenty, the Poms. So for the British Prime Minister, Mr. Sunak, to now get involved and accuse Australia of breaching the spirit of cricket, well, that's just laughable. What spirit? When? Since W.G. Grace picked up a bat, cricket's been about cheating. Tell me when the Aussies didn't breach the spirit. Michael Clark in South Africa, I'll get Mitch to break your effing arm, mate. Let's go back to 1981. The underarm, Dyer the liar, mental disintegration, Steve Waugh called it, i.e. sledging. Only the most foul, abusive filth coming out of their mouths about your wife, your kids, any disability or unusual physicalness that you might yourself possess. Nothing was sacred. Then there's the Phil Hughes stuff. Oh, we're going to change. We're going to respect the game. They all wailed afterwards. What a lot of pony. Utter crap. And I haven't even mentioned the sandpaper stuff. They cheat. They abuse. They do whatever it takes, however it happens, whenever they can to win. That's Australian cricket, and that is the definition of being an Australian sportsman.
Devlin.
What do you want?
We want information. Information.
You won't get it.
The Platform.
Sports news headlines, bring it.
Yeah, I'll start off with a story that we heard on the top of our news there, just around Jeremy McCall, the Olympic pole vault coach, who has been banned from athletics for 10 years after an independent investigation found he committed serious misconduct, including findings of harassment and inappropriate sexual remarks to athletes who were minors. As first reported by Stuff, McCall was last month stood down by Athletics New Zealand while an independent employment investigation was carried out after the national body fielded multiple complaints about his conduct. And when they're talking about minors, not to drag people's names through the mud, but you can't help but think the likes of our bronze medalist from 2016 and our two high-performing pole vaulters from last year's Commonwealth Games. One of them got bronze, that they might have been on the receiving end of this behaviour.
Well, I mean, I think 2 + 2 equals, doesn't it?
Yeah. So a real
very sad for the athletes. This guy's a scumbag.
And it feels, I mean, a 10-year ban, but is there going to be, as you mentioned, some form of punishment on
formal repercussion?
Yeah, from a law perspective, a criminal type perspective.
I mean, you can't just walk away from this, McCall.
No. Not at all. All right, Blues, they have their new coach, Vern Cotter, who will guide them through the next 2 Super Rugby seasons at the least. could get a contract extension after that. We never know. He has indicated pretty early on, he was speaking to media yesterday, indicated very early on that he wants to get his hands on the forwards and he wants them to show more mongrel. I think every single Blues fan would say the same. This is what Vern Cotter had to say. Yeah, I want to get the forwards. I want to get them a bit rougher and tougher. I think rugby starts up front. We just need to work on that. Everyone does, but we really need to focus on it. We don't really need X Factor up front. We have got lots of that in the backline. Obviously, it will develop, but in the simple terms, that is where we will be looking at. And that is where you win rugby matches. Get the basics right, and that does start up front. I think we can all agree. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has accused Australia of breaching the spirit of cricket, adding to the national pylon over the controversial Johnny Bairstow stumping. English media also laid the boot into Australia with several references to the word cheat on the front and back pages of their newspapers.
The Aussies will love it, mate.
With images from within the Lord's long room, both the Daily Express and Metro ran with bodyline-themed "Just Not Cricket" headlines, while London's Telegraph labelled it an underhand dismissal. All right. Right, Darren Bazeley. This is news that came out at 11:30 today. Darren Bazeley has been confirmed as the All Whites job. He's been given it on a permanent basis through to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. New Zealand football ending their pursuit of what they labelled the standout candidate, understood to be Canadian coach John Herdman, who then withdrew himself out of the race, and everyone's just kind of been sitting around sort of doing nothing since.
I can tell you, and this is factually 100% correct, that 2 months ago, Andrew Bragnell, CEO of New Zealand Football, told Darren Bazeley that he's definitely not in the running for the job 2 months ago. 2 months later, he gets it.
He's got the job. Yeah. Nothing against Darren Bazeley, but clearly this has been a very messy 6-month saga for New Zealand football and a very disappointing saga. All right, 5-time Wimbledon women's singles champion Venus Williams returned to Wimbledon a quarter of a century after her first win at the All English Club, but she was unable to summon the old magic in a painful first-round defeat by Ukrainian Elena Svitolina. Venus Williams still retains the easy power that once made her the queen of centre court, losing, though, this match in straight sets. She did take a bit of a tumble, though, a bit of a scary tumble. She crumpled to the turf, winced, but after staggering back to her chair and receiving treatment, the old warrior spirit kicked in and she battled on.
How old is she now?
Oh,
she's 43.
Gosh.
She's 40,
Is she 43?
She's 43.
Yes, she's here, 43.
Yeah, there you go.
That's incredible.
Well, I mean, I don't really expect you at 43 to get past the first round.
But I mean, if you can fall down, get a little bit injured, and then get back up, that's quite impressive. Now, Novak Djokovic took the court as well. There was a bit of a rain delay in his match against an Argentinian man named Pedro Cachin.
Yeah, that translated into English as first round exit.
Djokovic won in straight sets. There was a rain delay. You know what Djokovic did when they came out afterwards? He got a white towel and decided to dry the surface.
Such a good guy.
I was going to say, it's just a way for him to try and win back some public appeal, isn't it? Other than that, there's not a huge amount going on at the moment in the world of sport. So, for the time being, Martin, that's what's making news.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
Nate Ryan from NBC speaking with us yesterday. Shocked and surprised by SVG's winning of the race.
I mean, it's something when Chase Elliott, who many consider to be the best road course racer in NASCAR, 2020 Cup champion, you know, he said after the race that SVG can go home and tell his friends how bad we all are. I mean, the stat that really stands out to me is that SVG's best lap today was 0.8 seconds, 0.8 of a second faster than the field. His third fastest lap was nearly 0.3 faster than the field. I mean, he toyed with these guys. I mean, he was in another league. I mean, I'm almost speechless to describe how good he was.
Okay, so let's just establish a couple of facts here. This is the full NASCAR field, right? This is all the guns racing?
This is the best drivers in America. This is the top level of NASCAR. This is Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin. I mean, these are the best drivers in the country.
He's an absolute legend of Supercars. 7 championship titles. And now Shane van Gisbergen's boss at 888 Racing, Jamie Whincup. Jamie, well, the big buzz, the big news here in New Zealand, and I'm sure right through Supercars as well, is the performance of your man, Shane van Gisbergen, yesterday. How have you reacted to that?
Yeah, what a performance. We're all a little bit shocked, to be honest. We watched on Monday morning just to witness Shane run his first NASCAR race ever. We thought we had expectations that he'd go well because the conditions sort of suited suited him, being a gnarly little street track and a little bit of rain down. But I don't think anyone ever dreamt that he could actually win the race. And fair enough. Strategy didn't go his way. Dropped back to 18th and just clawed his way through the field and won a NASCAR race in the highest level. It's unbelievable.
And what about that crossover move, mate? How good was that?
Yeah, well, it just looked like him in a supercar. Really, he was just finding the moves, finding the opportunities, and then boom, was showing absolutely no mercy. And any half an opportunity he got, he took it. They all pulled off. Did an unbelievable job behind the wheel, and he's got a NASCAR win on the resume. It's incredible.
Look, the reaction in the United States has been fantastic as well. Very, very gracious. I mean, that wouldn't surprise you, would it?
No, not at all. It's an unbelievable achievement. First person in 60 years in the 75-year history of NASCAR to win on debut. It's huge. It's a huge moment for not only SVG but for motorsport in Australia and New Zealand, in this side of the world. When you do grow up in any sport, well, in business as well, you always wonder, what level are we competing at? Are we half as good as America and Europe? Are we a quarter as good? But time and time again, we see these data marks where people from drivers, engineers, all sorts of things go over the other side of the world and do a very, very good job. And I think it's just a credit to what we do in this side of the world. I think we operate at a very, very high level.
Yeah, a couple of things on that. I mean, with the way that Scott McLaughlin has been driving in IndyCars as well, does that give you full confidence that what you're looking at in terms of the competitiveness of your drivers, of your series, of your circuits and everything can actually compete with anything in the world?
I believe so, 100%. And what SVG did on Monday morning, if that's not a testament to that, I don't know what is. As you say, Scotty Dixon's doing an unbelievable job.
Yes.
Scotty McLaughlin, and then SVG. This is not the NASCAR second or third series. This is the Cup Series. It's the biggest form of tin top racing in the world. And he goes over and just blasts through the field and wins the race. So I think it's been an unbelievably good thing for. Think of all the young kids growing up in New Zealand, wanting to make a career out of motorsport, knowing that you can, be successful here and go over the other side of the world and win at the highest level it puts a smile on your face. So it's just been what SVG's done has just been fantastic for the sport here in this side of the world.
Yeah, that's what my next point or question was going to be. I mean, sort of reverse it and think, looking back from them to Australia, I think this is one of the best boosts and the best advertising that Supercars could probably get.
I couldn't agree more. I'd love to see the US attendance of Townsville this weekend for our Supercar round 6. No doubt there'll be more interest in what we do over this side of the world, and not only just for drivers, but for engineers, mechanics. It just shows that we operate at a really high level, and we can be competitive over there. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see more and more Aussies and New Zealanders go over to the US and Europe to try their luck. And, I'm sure they'll be starting to look this way as well.
Jamie, I've got to ask you then, I mean, with all the, the absolutely brilliant career that you had, you stayed in Supercars all that time. Did you ever think yourself, did you ever want to give it a try? Were you ever invited?
I never made the opportunity. I always say to young kids, opportunities don't just fall in your lap. You've got to go out there and chase them. And that's what I want to commend Shane on is I'm not jumping on the bandwagon here. It wasn't 888 that organised this drive. It was him himself that absolutely was hunting around, found the opportunity and chased it and went over there and won, So he absolutely made it happen. And you'd have to say, being critical of myself, I didn't actually make an opportunity like that happen. In saying that, though, I was very, very happy with my career here in Australia. Very grateful for it. I'd love to do a little bit more racing. I'm still haven't hung the helmet up yet. I'd love to do a little bit of GT stuff in Europe and whatnot, but certainly what Shane did on the weekend, that's certainly well and truly passed for me. But I think the learning experience for everyone out of it is you've got to create your own opportunities.
Yeah, it must make you think, though, that, and it must give you the confidence that what you're watching every second or third weekend when the supercars are on, what the drivers are capable of, what yourself and the very elite drivers are capable of, is comparable with anywhere else in the world in motorsport.
For sure. And we're quite critical of our own series. And we're quite, we do question whether it is at what level it is at. As I say, you always look overseas and go, are we only half as good, a quarter as good? But no, what we witness here locally is at a really high level, and something we all should be really proud of.
Triple Eight boss and Supercars legend Jamie Whincup is with us. What does that mean for your star driver, though? I know he's got a contract, he's got another year at Supercars. Do you think that he's going to stay after that, or is the lure of NASCAR going to be too much for him?
Hey, who knows? Right now, I'm sure there's opportunities at Central coming his way. So we're not sure. He signed up with us to race in Supercars 2024. But me personally, of course, I'm trying to run the business and I need the best drivers. But am I going to stand in the way of somebody wanting to chase their dream and go over and live the NASCAR world? I'm certainly not. You know what I mean? No doubt it'll hurt me personally in my business, but I'm not going to stand in the way of that. So hopefully he's dialed in for this weekend's Supercar race in Townsville, but I'm sure we're going to have a chat in the next month or so and try to work out what his plans are. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he lives his dreams, and whatever that is, whether it's staying locally or going overseas. Whatever he wants to do, I'll massively support him with.
You wouldn't stand in his way, obviously.
No, I definitely wouldn't stand in his way. No, that's not what it's all about. You know what I mean? That's not just for the drivers. That's for anyone that I employ. I want to see them. If they want to move on to bigger and better, they got my full support.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Next! I am the Minister of Common Sense.
We need to talk.
I am.
We need to talk.
Questions for you regarding SVG and Supercars. Listening to your boss say that. If you're Shane van Gisbergen, what is your next move?
I'm getting out of there.
What is your next move?
I am schmoozing. I am playing all of the NASCAR team owners and principals and whatnot. No doubt he would have been wined and dined by a few. And when he had a few drinks last night and went out and celebrated, Joe Gibbs, how are you? He's talking to some big names in the sport.
That's right.
Who will be gauging an interest. And if you're him, you are taking any opportunity you can really get to get into that sport. Because, I mean, he's talked about it for a while as well.
Where does he race next year? Does he stay in Supercars?
So he'll stay because he's got 1 year left in his contract. Yeah. I don't think he's that much of a dick that he'll just go early.
I think he's an honourable guy.
And I don't think Supercars and motorsport in general isn't the kind of sport where I think it's not like the NBA where a player, or in this case a driver, will happily cut short their contract.
Because you've been shown a lot of loyalty and support by those who actually give you these rides. And so the guy Whincup's got his back, no question about that. Is he going to get offered more races, though, between now and when he does go there, which I think will be 2025?
Yeah, probably. I would say, because Kimi Räikkönen did this twice with the team that he raced with. And so I would assume that they'll go to Shane and say, do you want to do 2 or 3 maybe next year? And who knows, maybe another team turns around and, I don't know the ability to do this, but maybe another team, maybe one of the bigger teams, do what they did with Scott McLaughlin the year before he went to IndyCar and give them a couple of shots in one of the big team's cars.
Next!
Would he get offered another street circuit or anything but an oval? Would they give him an oval?
Yeah, because they'd probably want to see how he performs. They'd probably give him an oval and give him another, not a street circuit, but another circuit that's not an oval. What are they called? Road courses?
Road course.
So give him something like that just to see how he performs in different surfaces and in different tracks. Yeah.
Next!
It would be smart to do that.
Is this good or bad for Supercars?
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Okay, what say that, all of a sudden, the big spending Americans start, hello, little brother Supercars down there. Well, we might pluck you, we might pluck you, we might pluck you, we might take you.
Yeah, well, it's good for the exposure for starters. It would develop a bit more of a relationship between the two sports. And I would think...
this is just so good for the credibility of Supercars in that part of the world.
Well, that's the thing. And so they'll look at that part. There is now a tunnel for drivers in this part of the world to go to the US. And not just IndyCar, but NASCAR as well. So, I don't know. This is just my assumption. People in sport are super competitive. And I loved how the drivers are all like, oh, it was incredible to see. He did really well. None of them said, I'm so happy for him. And deep
Of course
down,
not, and I would hate to hear them
those
say that.
NASCAR drivers are filthy
They
with
are.
what went on.
Look, if you know, I happened to interview Marcus Ambrose back in 2009, 2010 or something like that when he went across. And he said no one spoke to him, no one talked to him. There was no friendliness whatsoever. If he wanted to borrow something, he got the cold shoulder. I mean, they didn't want to help. And look, they'll all be lovey-dovey at the moment. Wow, look at Shane van Gisbergen. The moment that he gets in there and gets on that circuit, yeah, of course, motor racing, they are the most competitive of all, mate.
And so my thinking is, similarly to what Roger Penske did back in 2016, I think it was when he first came into Supercars, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a big, excuse my French, a big dick swinging team owner in NASCAR who'd love the idea of going down to Australia, starting up a team, taking a driver with him, and maybe picking up a talented driver down there in New Zealand and Oz.
NASCAR in Oz, didn't they? They had Stockcars. Yeah, that's right.
So I could see that happening soon.
Why won't they be taking De Pasquale? And is it because he's an English cricketer? He's a Blues Ford Pack member driving a supercar.
You have it out for this guy.
I don't have it out
He's
for him. He's got all the talent in the world, but he doesn't have the balls to drive his car like he should.
Okay, fine.
Okay?
Yeah, okay.
He's Mr. Safe behind the wheel, is he not?
Well, maybe he got his elbows out when he and Shane had a battle in Townsville last year and turned Shane round and then got disqualified, didn't he? You just hate him. You don't like him.
I just don't like the way he drives. I've got nothing against the guy. Finally, in terms of New Zealand motorsport achievements, let me rack and stack.
Oh.
Where does Shane van Gisbergen winning his debut race in NASCAR rate alongside winning an IndyCar championship, an F1 championship, Denny Hulme, an F1 race.
Indy 500, by the way.
An Indy 500, okay. F1 race, a 24-hour Spa, a Supercars title.
24-hour Le Mans, Brendan Hartley's done that.
Bathurst, New Zealand GP. I'm not counting motocross. I'm not counting motorbikes. I'm not counting superbike titles in this. All of those motor racing titles, where does this stack? See, I would rate it alongside a Bathurst one.
Yes, it's certainly...
It's not an F1 title.
It's not an F1 title. It's not an Indy 500, which I actually think an Indy 500 is bigger than an IndyCar championship, I would actually think.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably more well recognised to motorsports fans around the world.
So it's below those.
And it can't be like Spa 24 hours.
I think with the context of the situation, the fact that it's not that he drove it in NASCAR for a couple of years and then won a race, finally. No. He went there with barely any practice and won his first ever race in the sport against the best in that sport in that country.
Listen to that. Listen to those words. This is how incredible this is.
I'd put that higher than Bathurst.
Okay, you would?
Well, for starters, a bunch of Kiwis have won Bathurst, and it would rival in Bathurst maybe Shane winning it on his first attempt, or a Kiwi being in a wild card coming out of nowhere and winning it. It'd be like that, I think.
So SVG winning a NASCAR bigger than Bathurst.
Devlin.
Hamish Kerr is just ticking off every single box that he needs to tick. Commonwealth Games winner last year in the high jump. Bronze medal at the World Indoor Champs, and now he wins a Diamond League meet. It wasn't, as you said, I heard you on the news, 224 is not your greatest jump, not your biggest jump, but it's enough to win. So just talk us through the competition to start with.
Yeah, obviously, I jumped 224 actually 2 weeks ago in Florence and came fourth in one of the Diamond League meetings there and was pretty gutted. So, I think if I told myself then that, fast forward 2 weeks, I'd be jumping the same height and winning, I'd probably be calling a bit of bull on that. But, it's the thing that happens in our sport is sometimes we get amazing conditions. Obviously, it's more or less a summer sport, but sometimes you get real crappy ones as well. And we just happened to have a night of it in Stockholm, so it was it was absolutely pissing down. It was probably about 16 degrees, which for a summer sport, it's not warm. I think for me, I obviously knew that probably played into my Kiwi hands quite nicely. I was competing against some of the guys who, the Italians aren't super used to 16-degree weather with pissing down.
Right. Yep. Well, that was great that you beat the Olympic champ.
I think I probably managed the conditions better than them.
Yeah, and beating him.
Was.
So this is what I'm really interested in, is that who you're competing against and the fact that you have to beat them at a meet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the cool thing about the Diamond League is that, those guys I'm competing against now are the top guys in the world. And, any time I go out there and get a scalp, it's actually really valuable sort of information and kind of confidence for the big meets that are coming up. I mean, there were probably, I'm sixth in the world now, and there would have been 4 guys rankings all at that competition. So, to be able to kind of go there and sort of smack off those names, it's real good.
It was raining. You said there were puddles as well, which obviously makes it. I'm just trying to get my head around how dangerous that might make it, or the fear of just slipping over as you're going in for your run.
Yeah. Oh, look, I don't think it's that dangerous. I think that it was quite funny. Like, some of the boys were sort of sitting around going, "Oh, surely we can't compete in this. Like, let's postpone it." And it was like, "Come on, boys! Like, put your heads in. We're fine. Like, let's just get into it." So, yeah, I think it's one of those things that it's probably mentally challenging, but I wouldn't say that it's dangerous in any way, shape, or form. Well, at least that's what I was telling myself, and it seemed to work.
All right, this is the one in Sweden. How have you been going up until that stage? You say you got a 4th in the previous.
Yeah. So it's been ups and downs. I've had an amazing last 12 months, sort of post-com games. We've done a lot of really heavy lifting and getting the body feeling really good, and we've got some really good strength in the legs, but yeah, it just hasn't quite actually been put on the track yet. And so I was really feeling like coming into Sweden that the last couple of weeks of training we've really kind of turned a corner in terms of all the technical stuff we're doing. So yeah, I was hoping that that last night was going to be the night that I did a big PB and got an Olympic qualifier real early on in the period and all the rest of it. But at the same time, to come away with a win and have some confidence knowing that I've still got a few real good cracks coming up in the next couple of weeks. It's just good times.
Hamish Kerr is with us. Of course, won the Commonwealth Games last year, World Indoor Championship bronze medalist as well, and now a Diamond League meet winner. Just in the head-to-head comp in that, I know it's all psychological. You've got to look these guys in the eye, but you're travelling around with them, so they're probably, your close mates, and you spend a lot of time with them and that. Are you getting used to competing against these guys to the point where, when you get to one of your majors where you really want to take them out, that you're actually going to be able to look them in the eye and go, I can beat you guys, I've done it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're kind of a unique sport in the sense that our kind of our professional league, or the top league that all those guys compete in, is actually so much more it's so much more exclusive than the major events like the World Champs or the Olympics. You'll have 36 people going to World Champs or Olympics, but there's only 8 guys at every Diamond League, and it's usually 6 core guys and then 2 kind of add-ons depending on which country you're in. So yeah, you get pretty used to the top boys, and yeah, it's just great confidence, kind of knowing the way they click and the way they work and what conditions suit different people. So yeah, like I said, it's all learnings, but at the same time, it's just awesome confidence, and a lot of them are good guys as well. And I think that really helps the competition because it means that I'm enjoying myself. I've got people to yarn to and keep me sort of busy while I'm sort of waiting between jumps. So yeah, that's nice as well.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
Let's talk about whether those names that have been plastered all over the internet are in fact real. The 3 suspended by the MCC. Josh Curran gets a 2-week ban for assault, no conviction, pled guilty to it. This is where he broke the teeth of a 16-year-old in a nightclub who was supposedly taking photos or videos of him. The young kid didn't actually appear in court. One wonders if a deal was done. Dylan Brown gets 7 weeks. That has been backdated. He's got a $40,000 fine for sexual assault. Half of that has been suspended. Is that punishment appropriate when compared to Marcelo Montoya's 4 weeks last year for a homophobic slur? Vern Cotter wants the Blues forwards to get rougher and tougher. Good luck with that. Crybabies or cheats? Is either label appropriate for the English and the Australians following that test? Darren Bazeley, the new All Whites coach as well. Plenty to talk about. Let's kick it off, though, with the Rugby League. Big news out of Australia yesterday. Should have been the naming of the Origin sides and squads for next week's 3rd and final match, even though Queensland won the series. But so much attention on Dylan Brown, the Parramatta Eel player. Goes to a pub, starts groping a woman at that pub. She obviously said no, go away. He kept on doing it. Eventually got charged by the police. 5 separate sexual touching charges of groping her breast. Now, there's a few things attached to this. One, where were all his gutless, cowardly mates who should have been telling him at the time, stop doing it, you dickhead? And why weren't they? Even after he did this, Dylan Brown, he had his sunglasses and his hat on the dance floor. Okay, that's just a fashion statement. But it's also, you're a pork chop, mate. When you go to a bar and there's a guy out there on the dance floor at 2 a.m. with his sunglasses on or his shirt off, what are you thinking, Lachlan? You're thinking dick, aren't you, right?
Yeah.
You're thinking dick. Okay, this guy has got 7 weeks. Now, compare this to Montoya. What happened to Montoya last year is 2 men clash on a rugby league field. The other guy was faking it. He kind of fell over like he had been, shot from the grassy knoll. And Montoya said something, get up, you F. Right. Okay. We've just had a recent example as well where a young man called Finn Conchi from the Phoenix, their reserve side, was playing in a game against Petone on the weekend. He said something like that. The ref didn't hear it. And he's been stood down indefinitely. You can get stood down indefinitely. You can get 4 weeks for a homophobic slur. You can go to court and get convicted of sexual assault. And that's what this is. Whether
it's not sexual assault.
It's sexual touching.
Sexual touching.
Whatever. We know what he was doing.
Right?
Right? This also means that when it comes to travelling, Dylan Brown, you're probably going to get stopped now at most airports because when that conviction comes up, it's one of those convictions that won't allow you into a hell of a lot of countries, America included. All right. Is 7 weeks backdated fair for his offence when compared to what Montoya got?
Well, it's not fair full stop. Regardless of the Montoya
I think
thing.
his contract should have been ripped up and he should have gone for the rest of the year, undergone whatever programs that they were going to put him through, and then said, at this time next year, okay, are you in a position where we should be giving you a second chance? These guys, let's not forget, they have so many minders around them and tellers and managers and mentors. They just get schooled from the time they lace boots how to behave. And I also don't believe with Dylan Brown, people, that this is a one-off. A guy doesn't wake up and all of a sudden, I'm going to be an arsehole, walk into a pub tonight and start groping women. That doesn't happen. This is patterned behaviour. Have the NRL let him off lightly, Lachlan?
Absolutely. It's very weak. For starters, I hate what the NRL do. They've done this with a number of players with maybe not an incident like this, but some incidents where they've been suspended for a period of time, but the suspension gets backdated to some games they've already missed. I hate that. I think it's ridiculous because he can now play after 4 games.
Yeah, well, that's just not a suspension.
That's not right. Now,
no.
What he did is he went into this bar or club and he felt up a woman.
Mm-hmm.
He felt her chest, you know? Like, you just can't do that.
What kind of a prick are you, mate?
It's disgusting behaviour. And so
what kind of a coward are you, mate?
There's no excuse for it. And as you say, there's the arrogance of hanging around afterwards. All his mates were there. I mean, I don't know who was with him, but all of them were there probably egging him on. The nature of rugby league players, and, people talk about not stereotyping. I think you can stereotype here. There is a dark history, particularly recent history, with rugby league players overstepping the marks in a sexual kind of manner and being caught and found out. Now, 3 of the charges out of were dropped, so there were 5, now it's down to 2. I think for 100% that's because the deal's been struck.
Yep.
It is just horrible, cowardly, disgusting behaviour. And to only be essentially banned 7 matches in total, but 4 more after this, it's just not right.
Well, I don't think. I also don't think it's right when compared to what Montoya
behaviour
got.
that's against the law.
I mean, Montoya's stuff is virtual signalling. Virtue signalling is what it is. It's the NRL trying to tick all the rainbow boxes, isn't it? Here's an assault on a woman, for God's sake.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that's
sticks
against,
and stones don't break my bones. Names will
law.
never hurt me, for God's sake. Yeah. And so you get 4 weeks for saying that, and you get only effectively.
You find someone, and then you can go play for your. I mean, what sort of example does that set?
Well,
that a bloke can just go walk around a club, touch up a woman, totally against her will.
Keeps his career.
Keeps his career, but not just keeps his career. Gets to play that year. Gets to play in about a month's time. It's just there's no sense in it whatsoever.
It is wrong.
It is appalling. Wrong. His contract should have been torn up by the Eels. The NRL should have suspended him for the rest of the year. Absolutely. Yeah.
Brad Walter from the NRL.com is going to join us to talk about this in about half an hour or so. Vern Cotter wants the Blues forwards to be rougher and tougher. He says, we got enough glory boys out the back line. I don't need all of that.
Yeah, agree.
Well, I commend the man because he obviously recognises exactly
their problem,
where they have fallen
They
down.
get beaten up in the forwards.
That's it. They could be big bully boys against the opponents they'll put fitty on, but when it comes to fronting up against the Crusaders in the semi-final, they all ran away.
which is you could compare that with the All Blacks to World Rugby.
I just don't know how it's going to change for the Blues, because I suspect that the exact same lot are going to be back next year, unless you're going to completely revamp that squad, Vern.
Well, no, it'll be different. Yeah, it could be that, but it depends on how much of his voice gets heard and how hard he is on the players, because I think they need a strong voice to go in there and tell them what to do, and if they don't want to do it, then get rid of the players. I think he needs to do similar to kind of like what Todd Payton, we bring this up a lot, what Todd Payton did with the Cowboys in preseason last year. He got them to do drills, and the ones who put in all the effort in the preseason drills, he was like, cool, those are my guys, those are my players, and let go of the guys who weren't giving all the effort.
I think that he should just look over and over and over again at the tape of the semi-final, and just that's all you need to watch.
And show that the players as well. Show the players that tape.
Yeah, and make them watch it. The 3 supposed members of the MCC suspended Bartholomew, Frinton, Smythe and Humphrey. Does it really matter whether these are their names or not? As soon as I saw that today,
Are those not their names?
Well, who knows? I mean, it could just be an internet troll who's done it. I mean,
Where did you see it?
Well, I saw it on the interweb, didn't I?
Yeah, weird. But you think everything on the internet's fake?
Well, I think just about everything on the internet is fake. Yes, I googled. Does anyone know these names? And up it came. I was driving in and I heard a very well-respected radio station host this morning tell me on a talk radio station that these were the names. And so when I got to work, I looked it up and I thought, it doesn't matter, because that's the perception, and the perception's reality, isn't it? We all think that everyone at the MCC's got a double-barreled hyphen, Frinton, Smythe and Bartholomew and Egbert.
Spectacular names.
Don't we?
Bartholomew, Frinton, Smythe.
Yes.
Humphrey, Wigbert,
Yes.
Porter. Quinton, Breckenbridge.
We all know they've got a feather duster in one hand and her knickers on. That's what we know, right? I mean, that's what we do know. Okay, are the Poms crybabies or are the Aussies cheats? Or are both labels true?
The Poms are crybabies.
The Prime Minister of England or Britain getting involved. I mean, really?
It's not your department, sir.
It's not really, is it?
Just steer clear of sports.
You know, and
there's
also,
a reason why you're a politician.
Yeah.
You were the dweeby kid picked last for all of the teams. All right?
You know, and also this shock and horror and surprise at how Australia might behave on a cricket pitch. Look, maybe I live on the dark side of the moon here, but when Australia play cricket, this is what I expect. I don't expect anything less. I expect them to behave like a-holes every time they
shove
play.
Shove it in people's faces when they keep winning.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that whole Philip Hughes faux tears, David Warner and Steve Smith coming back after the sandpaper thing, and Smith getting his father to stand next to him at the press conference so he can blub and Dad can put his hand on his shoulder. Warner, you know, and I remember saying...
carrying his daughters, wasn't
I remember saying on air at the time, David Warner will front 12 hours later carrying his 2 children into the press conference late at night and they need sleep because, he's a dad. He's a good guy. It's all faked and it's all contrived. They are a-holes. We know that, don't we? Mm-hmm. I mean, does anyone need any convincing otherwise?
No.
I'm not saying it's England or desired. It's just what it is.
England, if you're in that situation, that would have helped you win the test. You would have done the same thing. We have done the same thing in the past. Everyone would. You know, as you've said many times, the whole idea of the spirit of cricket.
There doesn't exist. There's no such thing.
No.
Bodyline, for God's sake. It never existed. Finally, 2 months ago, Andrew Pragnell, the CEO of New Zealand Football, told Darren Bazeley he definitely wasn't in line for the job. Definitely. 2 months ago. Now he's got the job. What does that tell you? Left hand, right hand. Have you ever met?
Well, just New Zealand Football have cocked the whole thing up.
They fannied around, haven't they?
Well, they had their guy, supposedly. Who then pulled out. The thing is, how can you have someone have a verbal agreement and then they, at the 11th hour, go, no, I don't actually want to be the coach. You've obviously screwed something up. They've seen something or heard something or witnessed something where they go, actually, I don't want to coach this New Zealand football team, despite the fact that I've told everyone at New Zealand Football I'm going to be your coach. So something's gone wrong there, and I'd lean towards it being more of the problem of New Zealand Football than... What was his name? The Canadian guy? John Herdman. And as well as that, when did that come out? Was it February or March?
Yeah.
And it's now July. So it's been at least 4 months since then. Yeah. At least.
And remember they told us they had half a dozen people that they were talking to, right?
Yeah, so many people.
So many big names. So many people wanted this job.
Ufuk Talay was in the running. Is Darren Bazeley a better choice than Ufuk Talay?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
The thing is...
I've always thought of Darren Bazeley as the assistant.
If things with John Herdman don't work out, I'm assuming Talay was maybe second or third choice. like my old man works as a manager and he has in his various lines of work over the recent years, and he's always said, I mean, I think everyone knows this, that whenever you're giving someone a job, you tell the person you want first that the job is theirs before telling people that they've missed out. Because if that person, for whatever reason, last minute goes, actually, I don't want the job, well, brilliant, you can just go to your next candidate. So couldn't they just go to Ufuk Talay and say, oh, okay, things haven't worked out with John Herdman, the job yours? They couldn't because they pissed him off.
That's it.
And he didn't want to talk about it. He came out publicly and said that he'd been mucked around pretty much. And so was your third choice Darren Bazeley? No, he wasn't.
Look, I like Darren as a bloke, but Darren is the guy that they can control.
Yeah.
They can control, and also he was the guy in charge in that dressing room when they decided not to come out for the second half against Qatar.
Well, he just, as you say, I mean, I don't know him. He seems like a nice guy. I'm sure he's got a great football mind because he's been involved with the sport at a far greater level than I have, Jess. But I don't get any element of confidence in his ability, one, to be a forceful, imposing, but in a good way, imposing voice inside a locker room to get his players to perform at the best of their ability. And as well as that, no one can dare say that he is as good, if not better, than Danny Hay or Ufuk Talay for the job. Because that is total BS.
The ATM podcast with Mark Watson, international commentator, and always a vibrant broadcaster. Montoya got 4 weeks for a homophobic slur for the Warriors. Dylan Brown gets 7 weeks suspension for sexual assault, which he pleaded guilty to. At least 5 separate incidents of groping a woman's breast at a pub. This suspension backdated. Half the fine is suspended, so he'll miss about 3 weeks in the end. How do you equate this with an NRL that has women in league round, that purports to be this and that, and respect and equality and all of this kind of thing? Here's a guy that's pleaded guilty to sexual harassment of a woman multiple times. And let's just put ourselves in her shoes for a second here, Mark. You're at a pub and this goon comes up with his sunglasses on and his hat and all his stupid sycophantic mates, and he starts groping you, and you tell him to F off, and he won't, and he keeps doing it, and he keeps doing it, and he keeps doing it. That's an attitude thing to me. And then he gets a suspended, half his fine suspended, and he gets a backdated ban so that he only misses 3 weeks. How do you equate that to Montoya saying something on the field between men when they clash, and he gets 4 weeks? And all of that was actually, he had to actually sit the sidelines for.
Well, it's your classic virtue signalling, isn't it? It's just the NRL who just so desperately want to come out and say, look, we're rainbow friendly. But you're right. I mean, for society not to fall down, you've got to have a judiciary system that is fair and level for all. And that's clearly not the case in the NRL. More high-profile players seem to get away with a lot more. Lesser high-profile players are often made the scapegoat. And it's a great point that you highlight. And once again, just shows the complete and utter hypocrisy and the ignorance within the NRL that there is, again, a lot of virtue signalling. Look, you make a homophobic remark, you come out in that split second and say, oh, look, mate, you're a homo. Now, yeah, it's in today's society, it's not great at all, is it?
That's not right. No, of course, we all feel uncomfortable about it. It's not right.
But it's it's not meant. Look, it's no easy way of saying this, but he's not. Yeah, it's a derogatory term. That's just probably something that he's grown up, learnt. Was the player that he's talking to, was he a gay man? Probably not. Who's picking this up? What other things are set out on the field, and why are they not maybe deemed to be equally as offensive? And so, yes, we've got to cut out all the homophobic stuff. But like anything, I think sometimes you've got to look at the genuine intent and the genuine meaning and the circumstance. Now, if you are going to give them 4 weeks, and let's say that is, hey, we're not going to tolerate this, 4 weeks is the benchmark, 4 weeks is the basic standard. If you say anything like that, you're going to get 4 weeks. But then, as you said, Martin, you're in a bar, you're touching up a woman, basically along the lines of sexual assault. I mean, you should be banned for a year.
Should be.
You should let the police deal with it. I mean, it's far more offensive. It's on a much greater scale when it comes to bringing the game into disrepute. But equally, too, I've said it to you other weeks, what is it about these guys? You're a professional athlete. Why is it the moment you get a week off or the moment you finish a game, you feel the need to go into a bar and get completely obliterated on a Saturday night?
Look, mate, these guys have got minders, they've got managers, they have got mentors. They've got so many people around them that they have classes on this, that, and this. There's no excuse for it at all these days because you have every warning put in place for you. You have people holding your hand. You have people holding your thing when you go to the toilet, mate. I mean, this is how molly-collared these guys are, and yet some of them are still that brainless. I think the NRL should have come down with this guy Dylan Brown and made him the scapegoat, made him the example, and said, look, we have told you and told you and told you, and you morons still don't get it. Well, this is what happens when you don't get it. You're gone for a year. Come back in a year, knock on our door, and we'll see whether there's a place for you in the game after you've gone through all these courses. That's what I would have done with him, mate. I would have ripped his contract up and said, 12 months off, and then let's see what kind of person you are in 12 months.
Mate, I would have just ripped this contract up for the fact we're halfway through the season. You've got a week out. You feel you need to go to the pub and get obliterated so that you wake up then dehydrated. It has a huge impact on your hand-eye coordination. It leads to, and through dehydration, a whole lot of things, it leads to greater injury. I mean, you go, have you missed a tackle in the last 6 weeks? Have you been the best you've been? Why should fans spend their good money to turn up, basically to watch some dude who, says he's a professional because he gets a paycheck, but the reality is just a buffhead. And it's funny, though, isn't it, that, the 4 weeks from Montoya, again, that's just more virtue signaling.
Yeah, it's ridiculous now when you look at it in these terms, isn't it?
And they make an absolute mockery of it. Look, I've often, you still occasionally will joke with, mate, stop being this and stop being that. And you actually, if you were to stop and think about what you said, or someone else was listening, it might be deemed to be very, very offensive. But you sometimes just say things, and what you say doesn't actually have the exact meaning that is associated with it. It's just a flippant throwaway sort of insult.
Well, the young guy from the Phoenix is learning his lesson big time, mate, because he's been suspended as well, Finn Conti as well.
It could have been one of any 10 sort of slurs.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.